Assalamu alaikum. Okay, our next installment of spiritual lessons from Harry Potter. We are on the Sorcerer's Stone, and we are going through chapters 4 and 5 today. I've got my Harry Potter glasses, and today I've got my wand. All right, so let's begin. We're at chapter 4. And in chapter 4 is when Harry is out in the middle of the sea, and Hagrid comes to find them to personally hand deliver Harry his letter to go to Hogwarts. And more Harry Potter. I love it. Yes. And for this point, it's a beautiful example of what is meant for you can never miss you. No matter how people try to keep it away, try to deny it from you, like if it's meant for you, it can never miss you. And so, right, his uncle has tried everything in his power to not let Harry get this letter, to not let him go to Hogwarts. And because it is meant for him, it cannot be stopped. So, that's the first lesson, right? And that comes right away, that Hagrid gets in and is like, here's your letter, right? Here's your letter, Harry. Okay. Then, as we're moving along the chapter, and I'm going to read some parts of this because they're just, I just really love this book. And J.K. Rowling's writing, so beautiful to me. Okay. So when Harry gets his letter, obviously Hagrid also tells him that you're a wizard, right? You're a wizard, Harry. And Harry's like, what? Like, he's just overwhelmed by all the information that he did not know, that his parents didn't die in a car crash, that, that they were killed, that he's a wizard, all of it. And J.K. Rowling writes, after Hagrid has told him this whole story, Hagrid looked at Harry with warmth and respect blazing in his eyes, but Harry instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt quite sure that there had been a horrible mistake. A wizard? Him? How could he possibly be? He'd spent his life being clouded by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he were really a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him up in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? And this point here is powerful because, like Harry, all of us are important, significant, powerful, needed, and there's something special about us, right? Why? Because Allah created us, and we are God's representatives on earth. We are Khalifa, right? We are Khalifatullah. Okay, these glasses do not fit me. And when we really can let that sink in, it can be really overwhelming. Like, no, I'm not that important. Like, no, maybe God made a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know. I feel like I've messed up my whole life, or I've been through so much trauma, or if I was that special, why would all of these bad things have happened to me? Why would all these things be so difficult for me? It can't be true that, I am significant, I am special, I am important, I am needed, that people are counting on me, that I have some gift to share, that I have something to contribute. And this feeling is universal, right? This feeling is universal, which is why we can all relate to Harry in this moment of you must have made a mistake. I cannot be this, important, significant person who's defeated the greatest wizard when, I've lived a miserable life. No one likes me, all of these things. And so it is the same for us when we whenever we, you might have been to an inspiring khutbah, or maybe you read the posts on my page or in my blog and things, and you're like, okay, I feel the truth of what you're saying, Zahra, that, that I'm God's representative and I'm meant for more and Allah wants good for me and I can succeed. but it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like it from the life that I've lived. And this is just to point out that it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what it seems like. It's true. You are God's representative. You are important. You are significant. And it is true. And now it simply becomes a question of, are you going to walk the path that's going to lead you to realize your significance and your importance? Or are you going to continue to deny it and say, it can't be, it can't be, it can't be? Okay? And through our journey, through Harry Potter, we're going to get the lessons for how we can walk that path, right? Oh my God, guys. I love this book so much. Okay, what comes next? And then, he tries to prove it to Hagrid and tells him, like, well, I don't think I'm a wizard. And then Hagrid asks him, have you ever made things happen when you are angry and upset? And then Harry recalls all of the different things like we talked about in the previous episode that he's made happen, and he connects the dots. He's like, oh, those things happened because I'm a wizard. When my emotions overwhelmed me, that's why I was able to like jump to the roof of the building and, make my hair grow back. So he realizes for his own self, oh my God, this is true. And so again, you can look for clues in your own life, like, is there a person that counts on you? Is there something that you've spoken up about that made a difference, at work, at school, in someone's life? Is there, something that you've worked on or created or made or helped someone with that has been useful, even to one person, right? You don't want to dismiss or discount things that will help you see that, like, oh, I matter. Like, if I wasn't there for my friend, or that thing that I got called on for it, I would have been missed, right? Like, that person wouldn't have been helped, or that thing wouldn't have come about. So you can see for your own self that you are significant and important and God's representative. Okay, I have one more point for chapter 4. Let's see, what is it? Basically rounding that out, right? Is that all things, like the arc of your life, the story of your life, the things in your past begin to make sense when you realize the significance of who you are. Like, for those of you that have gone through trauma and hardship and, a lot of difficult situations, for those people, a lot of that contributes to your tenderness, your compassion, your care, your ability to have empathy, which is going to play out in what you do to how you build yourself back up and how you'll end up supporting others. And then it links why you went through that experience and what it is you have to give, what you have to give and share with the world. Right? So it begins to make more sense when you embrace your true identity, right? When Harry now embraces his identity, we're like, okay, fine. Am I a wizard? Like, oh, it makes sense. It makes sense that I'm a wizard because that explains all the things that happened to me before. Okay? All right, chapter 5. Chapter 5 is where Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley to get his school supplies. In this chapter, right, one of the things that Uncle Vernon had said to Harry about, like, oh no, you can't go to Hogwarts, is like, I'm not paying for you to go to Hogwarts. And Harry's like telling Hagrid, like, I have no money, like, I can't go to Hogwarts. And then Hagrid takes him to Gringotts, which is the Wizarding Bank, and he tells him, no, you do have money that your parents left you. And I just want to, let me find that page. I wrote it down. Page 75. Okay, right, and it says, the Dursleys couldn't have known about this, all of his money, or they'd have it from him faster than a blink. How often had they complained how much Harry cost them to keep, and all the time there had been a small fortune belonging to him buried deep under London. And I love this kind of imagery, right, of it being buried deep under London, because it's the same thing, right? Once you know the truth of who you are, there are resources to support you. you have resources. Before he thinks he's alone, he's by himself, he's with his terrible aunt and uncle. No one, he can't go to school. He's wearing hand-me-down clothes, right? And he's just a lonely orphan, stuck with people who hate him. When he knows the truth of who he is, that he's a wizard, that he's important and he's significant and he's famous, he has resources. And so the same thing, when you appreciate the truth of who you are, who Allah created you to be, what it is that you have to give, you will see that buried deep down in wherever you live, there are the resources to support you, to support what it is that Allah created you to do, your purpose. Okay. Next. Then in Diagon Alley, he meets Malfoy for the first time. Of course, he doesn't know that. It doesn't say his name. He just meets a boy, and they're both getting fitted for robes. And this exchange is just a good example of Malfoy's just parroting all of the things that he's learned from his parents, right? He's like, oh, he sees Hagrid outside the window. He's like, oh, I've heard about that. He's like a servant at Hogwarts. And Harry's like, he feels uncomfortable with the way Malfoy's characterizing Hagrid. And then he's like, oh, how do you feel about, people not from pure wizarding families going into Hogwarts? And what school are you getting into? And Harry, of course, doesn't know any of these things, but he feels uncomfortable. He's like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? And these are young, they're young. They're 11 years old. And Malfoy parroting these things that he's learned from his parents, it's just a good point to show that we don't come into the world learning and knowing and thinking and believing the way that we do. We are taught that by our families, by our parents, by our communities, by our societies. So be aware that your views and beliefs are not necessarily your own. They are adopted from who you grew up with and what you listen to and what you consume, and that you can shift them and change them if you allow yourself to open your mind and consider other possibilities. And then likewise, when you're looking at another person and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they believe this, or how did they believe that, to understand for that other person that, it's something that they have adopted, and how you could interact or, speak to people in a way that can allow you to support them to open their mind to your perspective or a different perspective if you want to. Right? But in this case, in the book, Harry just meets Malfoy and is like, okay, this guy has a perspective that he already, doesn't really feel aligned with. And what we know is that, that's due to Malfoy's upbringing. Okay. Then Harry goes to Ollivander's to get his wand, right? The wand I have here is the Elder Wand. I don't have Harry's wand. But, they say the wand chooses the wizard, and you have the whole, exchange that the wand that Harry ends up with has the same core as Lord Voldemort. They both have a phoenix feather that came from the same phoenix. A phoenix gave 2 feathers for wands. One is in Harry's wand, one is in Lord Voldemort's wand. And it's foreshadowing, right? Obviously, that something is to come. And here, that foreshadowing, again, linked in our lives of that's interesting. That's a coincidence. I wonder how that's going on. It's significant. It does mean something. It is leading to something later, right? Everything is connected. Nothing is random. Nothing is random. Allah has created it all, right? So just to appreciate that. Then it ends the chapter with Harry saying, I will read that part as well. So he's finally got all his stuff and he's about to leave, go back to the Dursleys, and he tells Hagrid, everyone thinks I'm special, he says at last. All these people in the Leaky Cauldron, Professor Quirrell, Mr. Ollivander, but I don't know anything about magic at all. How can they expect great things? I'm famous and I can't even remember what I'm famous for. I don't know what happened when the night my parents died, right? So he's famous. He doesn't know what he's famous for. He doesn't remember what happened. And like, that is literally the human condition, right? That we are told we are spirits. We are spirits created by Allah. We don't remember that, right? We're told we're, the descendants of Adam and Eve. We don't remember that. And that there is greatness within us, and that we have capacity, to be like the Sahaba, or to rise up and to do, and we don't feel like that. Like, everyone is expecting great things from you. I'm sure most of you, your parents at least, or someone in your life, or you've had a teacher or someone who expected, like, you have great potential, you can do this, you can do that. And you just feel like, I don't know if I can live up to this. I don't know if that's within me. I don't know if I have that capacity. And the feeling that they've got the wrong person. You've got the wrong girl. You've got the wrong guy. Like, you've made a terrible mistake. I'm not who you're looking for, right? And again, that feeling is common and universal. And so to allow ourselves to have that feeling, to have grace with that feeling, but then to really sit with and appreciate that, like, okay, I'm a divine representative from Allah, and I am supported. And I'm here for a reason, and I am significant and important, and it may be hard, and I may have made mistakes and have had a messy past and all of this and that, but what will it mean for me if I believe this to be true? All right, that's it for today. Inshallah, I will see you for the next chapters, chapter 6, and we'll see how many chapters we're going to do. If you're liking this series, please let me know in the comments. If you are already a Harry Potter fan, I'd love to hear from you. If you are new to Harry Potter, let me know. And yeah, I love it. All right. Assalamu alaikum, muggles.